Thank you, Danielle. Do you want to sit, guys? Or okay. I love the fact that we just sang that song then, Waymaker, because God was our Waymaker. There were so many times on our journey to Zambia when we couldn't see the way, but God knew and he made the way. So we've tried really hard to fit the last 2.5 years into a half-an-hour talk, which, as you can imagine, wasn't an easy task. There is so much more that we would like to tell you. I think I might have to write a book. There are photographs and videos. We are going to bore you with a whole load of those this morning. But I would say that our trip to Zambia was probably the most challenging and at the same time the most amazing experience of our entire lives.
Yeah, without any shadow of a doubt. So God started speaking to us about moving at the start of 2018. And so by the summer of that year, we were clear that he wanted us to move into international missionary work, which wasn't really what we'd been anticipating. So we prayed a mighty lot about that. And then we met up with another British family from Sheffield who were flying out to Kitwe in Zambia. Kitwe is the second city in Zambia. They were going to work in a newly built school for orphans out there called Dayspring Academy, and they invited us to join them, which again we weren't expecting. So Patrick was moving out there to be the head teacher, and with his wife Michelle, and they were taking their 2 boys who were teenagers with them. The school itself was built by a Christ Central church down in Horsham. They provided all the funding and did a lot of the work out there. Julie went to help teach and train the teachers, the Zambian teachers who were going to be working in the school, and they wanted somebody like me to do the marketing, so that's what I was going out there to do. So our eldest, Benji, at the end there, he was enrolled in an international school, while our 3 youngest, Eva, Lisby and Sammy, were going to be homeschooled. We were going to do that in between our home in Zambia and the school building in Kitwe.
So as you can imagine, the devil didn't want us to go, so we had a long, quite treacherous journey to get out there. There were a lot of attacks. In the 6 months leading up to us going, Sammy was suddenly diagnosed with epilepsy from nowhere. He got chickenpox and he broke his wrist. There were delays in paperwork, work permits, just everything imaginable that could go wrong went wrong. We booked our flights eventually. We were massively celebrating. And then our little Elizabeth here had a slight accident with her best friend on a rope swing, broke her cheekbone, weren't allowed to fly, had to cancel the flights and rebook. But eventually, at the beginning of September 2019, we actually flew out there. But the challenges, along with the challenges, God tangibly walked with us. We felt his presence. You guys were amazing. Our friends and family over at the Longcroft Church were amazing. Friends from the Liverpool Church and all over the world just carried us through with your prayer and your support. You might remember Dave Vine coming from the Longcroft. He's one of the Avail trustees. They're a charity. Their strapline is... what is their strapline? Serving those who serve. So they support missionaries all over the world. They don't send missionaries out, but the support they give is, honestly, we just couldn't have got through without them. Fundraising was one of our biggest challenges, as you can imagine. There's, I think, an element of fear that goes with anything financial. For us, it was a fear of, will we raise enough money to get out there, and then once we're out there, will we have enough money to live on? Will we be able to keep our children safe? Will we be able to eat, etc., etc.? And we had a couple of people, nobody from here, but a few people who, even friends and family, who they didn't want us to go. And, you know, I get that, that's fair enough, but it was difficult, it was a challenge. A couple of people said, do not get on that aeroplane until you've got every penny of your budget in place. And God said, no, you can fly. You don't need every bit of your budget in place. He gave us 2 pictures from 2 individual people who didn't know each other. One was us standing on a cliff. We could see Zambia in the distance, but obviously there was a mighty drop before we got there. God said, until you step off that cliff, I will not raise those pillars to meet your feet. Another was of us standing at the side of the ocean. The waves were crashing. Zambia was in the distance. God said, until you step into that water, I won't raise those stepping stones to meet your feet. So we did it. We booked the flights. We were £400 a month short on the budget that we'd put together for ourselves, which with the help of our friends in Zambia had put together for ourselves, £400, which was a lot. We booked our flights. We flew. Within 7 days of arriving in Zambia, we were contacted by our good friends in the UK who said, we've got some money, we'd like to pay for Benji's first year of schooling. It was an international school, it was a fee-paying school. We're going to send across the lump sum, you can give it straight to the school. That amount was £400 a month. That was within a week. We got our budget, but we had to fly, we had to be there to actually do that.
It did. So when we got out there, so this is September 2019, it was a really, really tough start. Julie needed to be in school almost immediately because the new term was starting. We didn't really have any time to find our feet or settle. We moved into a rented house. The rented house was completely empty, apart from a very old and not very good cooker. So we had to buy everything to furnish that house, and it's very difficult. In Zambia, it's not like being over here. You buying large furniture, it's not like going online and clicking it and they deliver it the next day. It's very complicated. And then we had times when, so we had at one point, both our boys shared a bed for quite some time, wasn't it? We had periods where we didn't have little things, like we realized we didn't have a sieve or a can opener, which makes obviously life very difficult. We had some interesting experiences buying things, and things like hiring open-top lorries to carry furniture across the city to our house, trying to get to a house when I didn't know where it was, and I'm geographically challenged at the best of times, and people laughing, you don't know where your house is? No, I don't. I've never been there. But we were very blessed to have a rented house, which was huge for us, very big, with a large garden, a lemon tree which dropped lemons over the wall. That was really nice. The houses over there are very different to over here. There's been a lot of crime in years gone by, so there are bars on the windows, on our windows. There's most houses are only on one level, got large gardens. We did miss our carpets, but the dust, it's very cold walking on these floors, but with all the dust, the house was hard enough to keep clean at the best of times. Right, the next bit, the electricity. So, unfortunately in Zambia, the electricity is created by hydroelectric power. And due to several years of drought, in Zambia and in Zimbabwe, the reservoir was almost dry, which meant that the power was turned off quite regularly. So when we arrived, it was turned off for 4 hours a day, which we thought, we can cope with 4 hours no power each day. But then it went up to 8, and then it went up to 12, and for the vast majority of the time, there was no power for 16 hours a day. So that has a huge impact on the whole thing, on the whole of the country.
That's where my hair comes from, because I didn't have any power to dry it, so it went like this.
That was God's treat for me. I loved Jubilee. But it has a huge impact. You go to a supermarket and their fridges don't work some of the time, so the milk can go off in the supermarkets. It makes a big difference for us in terms of when we're buying things, and you have to go. We would have to go shopping each day because the food would go off, because the fridge would go off, the fridge would broke because it was going off. The power was going off so regularly. The power would come on at ridiculously late, so 10 o'clock at night it had come on for a couple of hours, and so you don't really benefit from when it is on, when it's coming on at times like that. The water would turn off virtually every night we were there during our whole period. The water went off at about 9:30, 10 o'clock each night. So then the power might come on at the same time, so then you're trying to get washing done without water, but with power, or with power and no water. So that was very difficult. But we soon got used to having like large buckets filled with water in various bathrooms so that you can wash your hands and that kind of stuff. We are very aware, though, even though it was difficult for us and it was an incredible challenge, how amazingly blessed we were. And the whole power and water situation for people in Zambia just made life incredibly hard for them. And it remains like that now. And there's been more shortages since we've come home, like petrol shortages and that kind of thing. As I'm sure a lot of you are aware, when we first moved into our house, the biggest challenge, much bigger than the electricity, was the cockroaches. So we moved in, and on the first night, the whole house was just infested with cockroaches that just came out of nowhere, out of cupboards. And I don't know if any of you have seen cockroaches in this country. They tend to be, this kind big. But the ones in Zambia are much bigger. They come out of the sewers. They're brown. They're just, pretty revolting. So that we moved out there again pretty quickly till the whole house was not infested, fumigated. That's the word I'm looking for. So, that was a challenge at the beginning, but after a while we got used to having cans of doom or scattered all around the house to kill, to kill the cockroaches when they did come out. Right, so now we come to the first pictures. So these are some photos from our arrival in Zambia.
Might struggle not to cry watching some of these as they go through. When we arrived, the preschool had been running for 6 months of Dayspring Academy, and there were just 2 of the primary school classes open, grades 1 and grades 2. The lack of power obviously impacted on the school as well, especially when the power was off, the water didn't run, so the toilets couldn't be flushed, the children couldn't wash their hands. We had lots of buckets, the big buckets with the little tiny taps. So there's a lot of those around school, and it was, turn the tap off, don't waste the water a lot of the time. The British head teacher and his family by then had been in Zambia for about 10 months, so their boys were fully settled in the international school, which Benji then joined. I worked in the 2 primary schools, classes even. One was taught by a really strong Zambian teacher who's now the head teacher of the school, and the other by a lady who struggled with English. So she struggled a lot with teaching, as you can imagine, so I supported her a lot up until Christmas. Now, Lisby and I recorded a video of our drive to school, just to give you a little bit of an insight into Zambia and where we lived. So we'll show you that now. So we are on the last stretch down to school here. This is actually a decent road. This is fairly decent road, fairly straight. We're just coming down to the road where the school is. Speed bumps, which are a pain. There's one of the car wash places. Elizabeth will show you one of the car wash places. You filming it, yeah? So the river runs right along the side there, so there's a whole load of those shack car wash places. It's a miserable grey day today. Here's another car wash here. Just coming up the main road towards the school now. Stop filming me, go away. This is a big crossing here where it actually looks like the lights are working today quite often. More often, in fact, than not, the lights don't work here. So you just stick your hazard lights on and just creep across, which is always interesting.
Don't you have to put your hazards on anyway?
You have to put your hazards on when you get to the railway crossing. Oh, this is a bit boring now, actually. Maybe we'll stop it and start it again. Should we do that? So this is one of the very many furniture places where basically people just set themselves up to sell rather dodgy looking, not very well made furniture. Lights have gone green. So just driving across the crossing now. So you can imagine, if you look at how busy this is, you can imagine what it's like when we're trying to get across when the lights are not working. And here, so I have to put my hazards on now because this is a railway crossing in Zambia. Now we don't have, are you stopping for me? We don't have, what do you call them, proper railway crossings. So you literally, this massive train goes across here twice a day. And people walk down the railway line. You have to put your hazards on and stop. Okay, so here.
Worst road in Zambia.
Here we have the school. So this is a very typical example of a Zambian road. This is what we drive down. This is why our car is knackered all the time. And the parents have to drive down here with little cars. We're actually very blessed to have four-wheel drive.
It's even worse today because it's been raining.
Yeah, it's been raining a lot in the night, which means it makes it
A lot worse.
yeah.
There's Patrick's car.
So there's the church over there with the thatched roof. There's the school we come to every day. Car yard, breaker's yard at the bottom there. Oh, makes me feel sick, this road.
There's the new toilet block.
And this is where we park every day, and Elizabeth will pan round and show you the school. And these are the church offices in front of us. And here we are. Bye.
So, so I started building a Dayspring Academy website before we left when we were still in the UK. And it was really great to arrive and see firsthand the work which had been done. I continued to add to that site in Zambia, put lots of stuff on there, still do that now in fact. And I also took over the social media for the school. So Facebook is enormous in Zambia, I mean massive. And pretty much every person you meet is on it. Everyone has a mobile phone, even if they can't really afford to buy much else, they have a mobile phone. So I spent a lot of time taking photographs and writing social media posts, which really succeeded in advertising the school. So on top of the general site for the school that I'd built, I also built this other one, which was basically to raise awareness of it in the UK and for people to give and support and find out about the school. The school over here. Now, the school itself was primarily built for the orphan children who live on the orphanage that's on that great patch of land, and that was run by Dayspring Ministries and headed up by Joseph and Lily Mwila. So people in the UK sponsor the children to take them through school. They pay their fees, and they also pay for school equipment and uniform. So the other children who attend the school pay their own fees. Now the fees at Dayspring are a lot less than some other private schools in the country, but that's paying for your schooling is the norm in Zambia. Now what we aim to do is open up more grades, more classes in the school at the start of 2020. So when we arrived, my job was to try to raise awareness, get more pupils in, and get more teachers in. They'd put out a radio advert for teachers and received hardly any applications. That just hadn't worked. And it was important for the school to hire really strong teachers. That was the whole, the idea. So, because for pretty much all the children in the school, the English was their second language. So we really needed to hire teachers who were really good at English, but also had better training and experience than many of the Zambian teachers. So I put an advert on Facebook for new teachers and also for new children to enroll in the school. So we had, as Julie mentioned, we had grades 1 and 2 running, and we wanted to introduce grades 3, 4 and 5 after the Christmas break. So after the advert, we were inundated with teacher applications and also lots of new children enrolling, which was, that was a big prayer for me because that was my main aim, to be out there, and I wanted it to work, and it really did. So I was so thrilled. It was just, God was so amazing with that. I've never known a Facebook ad to be so successful. So over the Christmas holidays, Patrick and Julie held interviews, and they hired 5 new teachers. And when the children came back in January 2020, the school was far fuller, and it was really busy. It was just fantastic. The preschool was totally full, and 5 grades in the primary. It was just so exciting to be there and see it full of life.
Yeah, it was. I just loved it. That period of time was just amazing. It was so busy and full. The children just wonderful. The teachers were wonderful. I just spent my time literally whizzing around the whole 5 classes and just learning so much from those children and those teachers, and them learning from me, I hope. And just, it was, I just can't really describe. We'll show you a little video in a bit. The Zambian system's quite old school. The children learn by rote. They do a lot of copying from the board. The main issue with that is that they struggle with independent learning. They don't like making mistakes, and I just spent most of my time there pummeling into them that mistakes are good, that we learn from our mistakes, and I banned their erasers and things like that. I had one little incident where I'd started off a session and then I'd gone into another class, and I came back nearly an hour later, and one little boy was sitting there with a big hole in his page where he'd used his rubber so many times to rub out the date, because it didn't quite fit on the page. The last 2 letters of the month didn't fit on the page, and he just couldn't stand it. It needed to be perfect. So it was just trying to get over that hurdle of actually it's okay to make mistakes. Okay, so there was loads of fundraising going on at different places. We had boxes arriving from the UK full of wonderful books for the children to read. We even got smart boards fitted into the classroom, which only obviously ran when the power was on. Eventually, money was raised to put solar panels on the roof and an inverter system put into the school, so that made a huge difference to them. And the school at that point was just such a really vibrant, happy place to be. We're going to show you a little video now. Some of the video won't kind of make sense to you because I recorded the children. We partnered with some British schools. They sent across letters and we wrote back to them. So these videos were actually made for those children, but we thought we might like to have a little look at those now. Welcome to Dayspring Academy here in Kitwe in Zambia. We're a full primary school, but at the moment we only have grades 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Eventually we'll have grades 6 and 7 as well. These are all our classrooms running along the front of the school. Behind me we have the railway line. Trains don't come along too often, but when they do, we have to stop everything we're doing because it sounds like the train is driving right through the school. Here we are at the back of Dayspring Academy with our classrooms. We have colourful pillars with lots of phonics painted onto them to help the children. Here at the side we have our playground. It's just been resurfaced with sand. We have swings and a climbing frame. Obviously the children come out here at playtime. Over there, that big building with the thatched roof is Dayspring Church, which is at the side of the school. Eventually we'll create a playing field down at the end for the children to play on. Here at the side of the school we have the area that eventually we want to create our library in. So at the moment it doesn't have external walls. We're raising funds to be able to put in some bookshelves, build the walls obviously, bookshelves, book boxes full of books for the children in Dayspring to read.
my name is Mumulu and I'm 7 years old, and my favorite snack is chocolate, and my also favorite sports is football, and my favorite color is red, and I have some questions to ask you. What food do you like? Hi, my name is Kondwani. I'm 9 years old, and my favorite sport is soccer, and my favorite subject is science, and my favorite food is shawarma. It's like a traditional food, and inside it has tomatoes, potatoes, and onions.
Sounds delicious.
Yes.
Did you have any questions you wanted to ask?
Yes. And how big is your school? And I also want to know how many sports are there?
How many sports did the children play?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant.
Dayspring Ministries also run 2 street feeding programs which took place twice a week while we were there. We really enjoyed serving at the one which took place in Kapoto. We were able to give a lift to some of the people who ran the project. First, we went and bought 150 eggs and bread rolls. Our family also took along a few hundred lollipops. We drove down a very busy and narrow road to get to the building where we would be feeding the children. There were already children waiting with their plates and cups. It took us nearly 3 hours to boil all the eggs and butter and bread rolls, and butter the bread rolls. We then had to peel all the eggs and cut them in half. There was also a huge pot of black tea, which we poured 2 big bags of sugar into. By the time the food was ready, there were nearly 300 children waiting to be fed. They lined up, and we helped to serve each child with half an egg, half a bread roll, a cup of tea, and a lollipop. Most of the children then took this tiny meal home to share with the rest of their family. I felt so sad to see all the hungry children, but they were so lovely and happy, and I was just glad to be able to help them in a small way. I won't ever forget that experience.
Boiled all 300 eggs, no, 150 eggs in one pot.
So Benji settled really well. The reason Benji wasn't with us on that trip was because he was at school, because he'd settled really well into Letchway, which was the international school. He made lots of friends there. It was a real blessing. He had his phone confiscated within the first couple of weeks, so no change really from the UK, very much the same. He turned 18 while we were out there, and it was really good. We were able to have a party for him. Lots of friends came. Just that was a real blessing for him and for us. We all really enjoyed attending this. Went to this local church, which was led by an American family who'd been out there for nearly 30 years. Now, over 50% of the church was Zambian, and the rest came from 18 other nations around the world, so it was truly international church. It was a great experience for us because it helped us make lots of friends. We really enjoyed the worship and the preaching, and God really spoke to us in that church. We received so much support because so many other people in that church were fellow missionaries who'd been there a long time or been there a short time, but they really understood what we were going through and really supported us. I don't think it's no exaggeration to say without that church we'd have struggled a lot, wouldn't we? We felt so incredibly blessed by God, with them. It was amazing. So, and for the children as well, it offered some familiarity in a cultural sense, because during the week we were in school. It was very, very unusual, very different. And then we were able to go to this church on Sunday, and it was a lot more like what we would be used to, and there was learning for them as well, and it was just much better. They all found it quite hard to adapt to homeschooling. They all followed, apart from Benji, of course, followed a really excellent Christian curriculum, which left no gaps really for them to return to mainstream schools in the UK. So it was quite hard for them to get used to being independent with their schooling and with their learning, but they also very much missed their friends from home and all the social clubs and activities they were involved with over here. I mean, I supported them in their studies in the school while Judy was teaching and was alongside working on the marketing. And Judy also helped, obviously, during her breaks in teaching.
Completely not succeeded in getting this into half an hour, have we? I'm sorry. Took us a long while to settle into a new way of life. I suffered severe homesickness. I just did not expect. I knew I would suffer, but I didn't expect to that extent. At the end of the October half term, 2 of the Avail trustees came out and visited us and took us out for lunch, and it was just such a turning point for us. They were like angels sent by God. They just spoke real sense into our hearts about where our focus was on, not on the stuff that we were finding hard, but shift it back to God. So it really did help us to kind of actually start, I would say, from the beginning of November to actually get on track and start enjoying our time there. Eva, come. Take your mask off.
We enjoyed Friday afternoon ice creams in Gigi Bonta, an ice cream shop which sold Italian ice cream. Eating out was cheap, and there was a Nando's where we would often go after church with our friends, which was our favourite place to eat. I really didn't like the water and power being off and the huge cockroach and beetle that came through the air vent into our bedroom at night. I loved playing with the children in school, and I named the lizard who lived in our house Billy. Then we had Baby Billy, Mummy Billy, Daddy Billy, and Baby Billy's baby. We went to lots of firework displays and outdoor swimming pools, which our friends owned. Sammy, Lisby, and I loved swimming outside on Christmas Day and using our friend's huge slip and slide.
Okay, we've got some photographs. I think we've gone through twice now. We'll try and whiz through the last bit. We have got some more photographs. We had nights out in the bush, sitting by campfires, listening to the sounds of Zambian animals in the dark. We lived obviously with cockroaches and lizards, and even arrived at a friend's soon after their guard had killed a spitting cobra. We lived through Eva contracting malaria and having to go through all the treatment for that, which was really tough, and she was very ill. And in fact, I would say probably only just now getting her full health back. Her eyebrows and eyelashes have returned. There's no sugar tax in Zambia. It's cheaper there to buy fizzy drinks than water. We enjoyed drinking proper old-fashioned bottles of Coke and Lilt and things like that. Even the peanut butter and the honey is sweeter than it is in this country. We had to limit how much we drank because it was hot, obviously. We got used to being chased down the street by little children begging for money while we were driving, standing on the edge of the car as we were trying to drive off. We were told very early on not to give them money, not to give the beggars money at all, so we carried around bottles of water, bags of crisps and fruit, which we would give out. Sammy didn't want to speak today, but I was just going to read out his little bit. He told me that the worst bits about Zambia were the heat, the mosquito net, the cockroaches and the power being off. But his favourite bits were playing with the children outside the school, eating ice cream at Jijibonta's. He liked the school trip to the museum in Ndola and swimming in the pond and playing in the mud at our friend's house out in the bush. And he also loved learning to ride a horse. I don't know if we've got another set.
So, I mean, I got very used to spending many hours each week driving around to sort out bills and do the shopping. Nothing can be done online in Zambia. We paid for our mobile phones by going into the shop, paid for our water bill at the water depot, where we also bought coloured bin bags, which would be collected by the bin lorry. But later we discovered that our rubbish was being picked up by Zambian people before it was actually taken by the rubbish collection, because we were so rich and seen as so rich compared to the other Zambians that they would steal our rubbish to see what we had thrown away, which we did struggle with at first, but we just kind of accepted it in the end. I mean, the petrol stations were manned by men and women who would fill your car with fuel and clean your windscreen. This is very much how life used to be in this country, I think. And a lady would sit by the side of the bank machine all day to make sure nothing went wrong. There was a lovely guy who would buy fruit. I'd go to this fruit stall every other day, and so I got to know the guy who sold fruit. He was called Concolan. He was a Manchester United fan. He used to wear a Man United shirt with Concolan on the back. And I got used. I very much, had a good relationship with him. We used to chat about things. He used to give us fruit. In fact, when Eva was ill with malaria, I told him about it, and he gave us free fruit to help her recover, which was just such a blessing. You just felt so touched. So we shopped every day because food went off so quickly and fridge often wasn't on, as we said before. But they don't have conveyor belts, so you put your shopping on the thing and then you have to grab it into your bag before you go. It's very different to the UK.
I think we're going to have to miss out. Yeah, which is a bit sad. So we went to a game reserve. We saw lots of animals. Yeah. The kids learned to ride. Let's just, show the photographs of that one. Are we in the way standing here, or can you see? Okay.
So the Zambian people are so wonderfully warm and helpful. They really are. We had a very good friend called Dennis who was guarding our home when we arrived. He'd been hired by the landlord because the house was empty. But we truly believe he was sent by God to help us in so many ways. And we know we were a blessing to him as well. We were able to give him a home in the outhouse that was at the back of our house. And God really blessed us with the funds from selling our belongings when we came home, that we could give him quite a large sum of money to help start building his own home, which is what he really wanted to do. So Benji's bit.
Just to clarify, when I had my phone confiscated, it was in my pocket and the teacher just had it out for me. So we knew this American family in our church who ran an orphanage called Abba's Heart. And each year they did like a Christmas party thing, which I got involved in when we were there. Basically, we did a bunch of activities throughout the day for them. And then I think there's a video of the activity I did, yeah, so it started off with they all came in the morning, and they were, this is the video. So they all came in on big buses in the morning, and then they cleaned themselves in the lake and were given like a change of clothes, which I think had been donated. And then we did activities. So my one was they took a cup and they had to fill it with water. They had to run and fill it with water and then take it across to another thing and then run back. And each of them did it, and whoever had the most water in their bucket at the end of the day won the activity overall. I find it quite funny that when he picks up the water and he walks across, because when I did the demonstration, I didn't want to spill water on myself, so I just walked instead of running. And for some reason, all of them then walked instead of running after they picked up the water. But then after we did the activities, they had like loads of food and stuff was made for them. And then they had a preach with a guy. I think they did some songs and stuff. And then, yeah, they went home and I got really sunburned.
So we'd have to miss some stuff out, but we'll have to wrap it up. This did not take this length of time when we ran through it at home. So leaving Zambia, obviously due to COVID, was a bit of a hit for us. But we knew God was in it. Patrick and his family returned, and at that point we just thought, okay, maybe we need to actually pray about this. I waved goodbye to the children at the school on their last day and said, see you after Easter. And of course they didn't go back to school for another 8 months, and then by then obviously we've not gone back. But we've stayed connected. We're still in touch with them. I feel like we're still part of their lives in a small way, and maybe one day we'll go back.
Yeah, we really love to do that. We really hope you enjoyed what we've shared with you today. Please do come and chat with us, though, if there's anything else you'd like to know, although obviously that would have to be when we're allowed to. Please do have a look at the websites I've built. We've not got the addresses up there, but the one for supporting Dayspring is just called supportdayspringacademy.com. And there's also one, streetlifezambia.org. Now, they're both on there, they're both live. It's possible to give financially to either through those websites. It's fairly clear on the home pages where, what you do to do that. Yeah,
just in conclusion, we'll share those on our Facebook pages later, maybe. In conclusion, we just wanted to, when the two guys from Avail came out, one of the things they said to us that really struck us was about the role of the missionary and mission, full stop, and how actually it's nothing to do with the ministry, it's nothing to do with the mission, and everything to do with your individual walk with God. So it doesn't matter where you are. You can be on mission out in Zambia, in Timbuktu. You can be on mission with your next door neighbour in Wallasey. It's all about your walk with God, because if you get that bit right, then you can't go wrong. So we wanted to just take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you guys and people listening and all our friends from around the world who supported us in this journey. We couldn't have done it without you. We couldn't have done it without God, and we will never forget it. Thank you.